Hi, I'm Lillia蛙yo, and I just wanted to talk about my drawing process for this drawing. Ibis paint is going to be my go-to because it's free, and these are the brushes I use. I use the hard dip pen for all of the line art. For all of the shading, I'm going to use the flat watercolor opaque brush. I actually got this tip from Fengzo on YouTube, and it was really helpful because I like how it just influenced my shading. Changed it up a lot because now I like the strokes. It's a little see-through, you can change the opacity, mess with it if you want. And then rarely I'll use the airbrush brush just to get a little glow effect in some places, you know, a little touch up on the shading. And then for the watermarks and writing and such, I will use a hard Japanese pen to kind of get the effect of a thicker beginning, thicker an end. But those are all the brushes that I use. Primarily, it just boils down to these three brushes. They're gonna be my go-tos for the whole drawing, and let's get into it. I knew from the start that I wanted to draw a cute headshot, just a little portrait, and what's cuter than a peace sign, so this is the reference that I used for this drawing. To begin the actual sketch, I like to start with the silhouette method, so I'm just sort of blocking out the pose and then drawing a very rough outline over it, so I get the idea of the shape that I want to go for, and then with the lines, I'm able to bring it out. The blocking is just sort of like a guideline, very, very roughly. I also utilize the box method for drawing the head shape, so I can clearly see which direction I want her to face, how much of the top of the head and the side of the head I'm going to see. It gives me that control early on. I think it's a little funny, but I do like to sketch in printer paper colors. It's the yellow, cyan, magenta. I actually use that to just kind of pinpoint the steps that I take so I can make it more clear for myself that I am making progress, I am getting somewhere. So the first step is yellow, just blocking everything out. Cyan's gonna be the very rough sketch, and pink is where I actually get into the features, the real details where I want to add. So I'm planning where the eyes are, where the ear's gonna lay, what kind of hairstyle I want. Right here is where it gets a little detailed, where I'm actually like getting a foundation for the line art down, finally. Alright, here in the line art zones where I'm going to be spending the bulk of my time because I tend to focus on such a clean line art. It's really like, I treat my drawings like a coloring book almost, where I want like a nice foundation of lines and then I can just color inside those lines. It makes it so nice for me. And of course I do have moments where I still push the boundaries of those lines. I'll have areas where I'm meant to color outside of them. I give myself a little freedom, but having such nice, neat line art from the start makes the whole rest of it so stress-free. I just gotta fill in the blanks, just adding color. So right here is where I'm going to be spending so much of my time. I'm kind of just stuck on this where line art is taking a lot of my actual drawing time, and I don't really know how to minimize that. I think that's just my style. I just like the clean line art, and if I have to spend most of my drawing time doing line art, if that's what I gotta do to achieve what I gotta do, I gotta do it. Now, this is actually gonna be a first for me, but I'm gonna be trying something a little different where I'm putting a different line art on a different layer. So because I want the peace sign hand to kind of stand out in front, I still want complete bottom line art, but I want the hand to go over. So I've had it on completely different layers from the rest of the line art, so I can easily have it above the drawing. And it's gonna be a little complicated to work with later, but just because it's new to me. But yeah, it's fun. I get something new to learn. In all honesty, it's actually really nice to see how much I integrate learning, like actively a part of my drawing process, because I realize that there are things I do not know how to do. There are things I'm not good at yet, and I want to be good at them. I want to draw a certain way. I know how I want to draw. I don't know how to draw. And so I force myself to learn. I integrate that fully into my art process where I'm drawing something I don't know how to draw yet. I don't know how to draw on separate layers yet, having like different line art for different things, a coloring layer above. I mean, it's new to me, and so I'm forcing myself, hey, I want to do it this way. I'm going to learn it this way. I could have just left completely blank areas in the hair, completely blank parts. And that'd be easier to have it all in the same layer, but I was like, fuck it, I want to learn it above, alright? So we're gonna learn it, and it's just nice to know that I'm really, trying. I'm really out here forcing myself to get better, and having that part of the process, pretty awesome. For the liner itself, I don't really focus too much on line weight. I kind of just make, the more prominent lines a thicker weight, and then anything detailed I'm going to add, especially when it comes to facial features, I'll just use a thinner line weight, and so it makes thinner lines in the first place. I don't like to go back and add, like, the extra weight to it or shave off parts of the lines so it really looks like a dynamic style, but I think it looks fine just to have the two different line weights. That works for me because it just gives me something to distinguish the parts, and it's fine. But now that the line art's all done, I can actually add the flat colors. The flat colors are just going to be another foundational tool, so I have, a canvas to shade on. It'll be easier to have like a one color down and then adjusting from there, adding tints, tones, and shades, doing all that. But I'll kind of switch the background color and make sure I got everything because the fill tool doesn't get all in between those lines, and it's very important that I don't have any blank spots, so it's nice to just get that all detailed. Now the rest of it for me is kind of just going through the motion. You're just building up the layers as you go, the depth of shading, adding more highlights, adjusting those, adding more shading. It's just going to be a constant building on top of each other. Usually I'll just begin with the shading because it's easy. I'll shade always on a multiply layer, which clips onto the current layer, so I can select all of the skin and then just multiply on top of just the skin because I used a separate layer for each flat color. And so now that I have that, I can just draw, add the shading the darkest parts. The multiply layer is what makes it dark, and so it'll add the shading for you. It's like I could use the exact same skin color onto a skin color, but it'll appear darker while I'm using it because the layer I'm drawing on is a multiply layer. It kind of multiplies the amount of darkness that a layer has, like that a color has. So if the skin color is not that dark, but if we take the amount dark, let's say it's like 3% dark, because I'm white, I'm super light, I'm pale, and so there's not a lot of shading, there's not a lot of darkness within that color. Say it's like 3% darkness, alright, but we double that, the multiply layer kind of like doubles it, so it's like 6% darkness. It's also going to do the same with the saturation, it'll like times the saturation, so we're getting a darker, more saturated color for the shading. And it just kind of like does that for you. So this is the part where like digital art a little easier than traditional art. I'm not gonna lie, this part so easy. Line art, the way harder. Sketching on paper, so much easier. Okay, it all has its pros and cons, but right here is where the pros really shine through because man, it's just a buildup of layers. For all the shading, I'm gonna use the multiply layer. For all the highlights, I'll use the add layer, which adds the lightness, so it makes the same color lighter. And it's like just so convenient. I can just easily use the colors I'm already picked out, and it's gonna change them for me. It's gonna adapt. Of course, I go back with different layers of colors, add any colors I want. Like I used orange to highlight the hair. On purple hair, bold move, pretty cool. It's nice having that control though. It's just I get a real control freak on my layers for sure, but it's just going through the motions. I'll get more in depth in its own video for sure, but it's so cool, fun to do. My favorite finishing touch of a drawing is to change the line art. I don't like the thick black lines. I change it to a color, make it a little more friendly, super cute, and now it's all nice and sweet. It looks fresh, add a background, super simple because man, I need to work on my backgrounds, but all done, yeah! Thank you for watching today. I definitely plan on creating a lot more art, but it was nice to talk about my process going from rough sketch to line art to flat colors to the big process of adding tints, tones, and shades to the drawing and then changing the line art, finally adding the finishing details and background. It was just, that's a pretty simple, spelled out process. Good to have too. It gets me to the end product. It gets me where I'm going. So it's important to reflect on it, and I'm gonna be working on refining it for sure as I go. But thanks for watching today.